quilty friend, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and today we're talking about the 10-inch square quilt block book. This is launch day. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to look at some of the pictures in the book. We're going to see a bunch of the quilts from the book, more than I have just here, because I also have a very special guest who has traveled a very long way to show some of these quilts. So we'll get to that in just a second. This is actually the third quilting book that I currently have in print. I have one that's out of print and one that is actually not about quilting at all. It is about hot glue, which is a whole nother story. We can talk about that another day, but I wanted to just show you my other books. This is the Ultimate Paper Piecing Reference Guide. It includes foundation paper piecing and English paper piecing in the same book. This is Sewing Perfect Little Bags and Totes, and it's a complete primer on making bags, from zippers to pockets to handles, box corners, all different kinds of techniques and tips for making your own bags. And now we have the 10-inch square quilt block book, and I'm so excited to show you all the different projects in this book. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our very special guest. Hey there, quilty friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and I'm so excited because today is the day that I get to show you all of the quilts from my new book. That's right, the guest is me, but from the past. See, I traveled a very, very long way to get here. Now, I'm recording this way in the future because these quilts are about to get shipped to my publisher, where they will be taking the gorgeous photos that will be in the book, and I don't know when I'm going to see these quilts again, so I'm recording this video now, knowing that months and months from now I will finally get to release this video and show you all that I've been working on, and I'm so thrilled. The premise of this book is all about 10-inch squares. So you take your favorite 10-inch stacker, layer cake, there's all kinds of names for these square fabrics, and then you use my new ruler, the cake cutter ruler, and you put those together and you get to make so many different quilts. Now, I have over a dozen quilts here that I'm going to show you, but there are actually over 42 different quilts that you can make, and I'm going to show you a little bit about that as I take you through all these quilts, because there are a handful of different blocks, and then depending on how you put those blocks together, you get completely different quilts every time. So depending on what pack of fabrics you use, you'll get a wildly different number of quilts, and they're so quick and easy. These are evening quilts or weekend quilts. They come together so fast. I had such a blast making all of these. And yes, if I wasn't clear enough at the beginning, they use a single stack of 42 10-inch squares, and that's it. Just one stack of 42 10-inch squares with your ruler and the book, and you have a quilt top, my friend. You add backing and binding, and you're totally done. Okay, so let's get started. This was actually the first quilt that I did. Now, all of these quilts do have names. This one is Hugs and Kisses, and I'm going to show you how darling this is. Isn't that so fun? This one is so super quick to make. I'm gonna keep saying that. They are all so super quick to make. And it makes such a lovely throw quilt, lap quilt, or baby quilt, and that's really the size that all of these are. There are instructions in the book if you want to add borders or if you want to add more squares to get a bigger quilt. So you can definitely make bigger quilts, but with your one pack of 10-inch squares, you get to make a full quilt. And you know that it's going to look good because all those fabrics were picked to go together. They're all part of a single collection. So here's the next one. Oh, I have it sideways. This is just 4 patches. And this one is made picking out lights and darks. And the book takes you through how many lights, how many darks, and how you cut them to be able to get this really fun quilt. This was perfect for this set of Fabric Wonders. Art Gallery Fabrics calls their 10-inch squares Fabric Wonders. because this one was all black and white fabrics, half black, half white. So fun, right? This is the quilt that past Carolina just showed you, and you can see that there are lots of different layouts for these different quilts, and I actually did one of the other layouts of this quilt, and I have that one right here. So since writing the book, we've actually been working on some of these other samples from the book, and here's one of them. So you can see, while these were basically made the same, one black and white and one in color, one as kind of a diamond bullseye pattern and one as a chevron. Same block, two completely different quilts. Now these next two are really fun. This is the quarter log cabin. And this is it done with Berry J fabric. And she has, I mean, it's definitely a cohesive collection, but there is a lot going on. So she has these really fun, a lot going on collections. And so the way that these quarter log cabins are put together is that they're all running in the same direction. But if you take the exact same block that's in this quilt, I'm going to set this right here for a second. Exact same block. Yes, it's done with different fabrics. And pivot them so that the centers of your quarter log cabins are in the middle. You get a totally different look. Now these two quilts, the blocks were made the same way. The difference is in how the blocks were laid out before they were sewn together. And that's how you get over 42 different ways to use your stack of 10-inch squares to make a quilt. Now this is the quilt that is in the book that you see here, and there are all different kinds of layouts for this book. This is the quilt that I just showed you with the Berry J fabrics, and one of my team members actually made this out of a Moda line. So again, same quarter log cabin block, just laid out differently. So all three of those quilts use the same blocks, different fabric, different ways laid out. You get completely different quilts every single time. Now, depending on the stack of 10-inch squares you have, different patterns are going to look great in certain sets of fabric. So for example, the big black and white diamond was perfect for a high contrast set of fabrics. So one where half of them are very dark and half of them are very light. It would also be great if like half of them were reds and half of them were blues. If you have two very high contrast fabrics, it's great for that. This pattern, whichever layout you choose, is really great for any set of 10-inch squares. Would look great because it's really, I don't want to say like chaotic or haphazard, but it lends itself to colors really coming together. This one as well, which is part of the Rail Fence series. Look at all those fun colors. This one, I use these really cheerful fabrics, and also is great with any layer cake. All right, so this is the quilt that past Carolina just showed you, and here are some of the different layout options as well. This is a more standard rail fence, but this is the half rail fence with some different layout options. And to show you that this pattern really looks great with just about any different fabric, we have another one that was made by one of my team members, and this one's done with a Robin Pickens line. So here is another layout option of that same block. And did you notice the quilt behind me is actually yet another layout option of the exact same block? Any set of 10-inch squares, no matter what the company calls them, looks great with any fabric collection. So there's lots of these quilts that look amazing with any fabric collection. This next one works best with something that has high contrast. This fabric collection didn't have the highest contrast, but I loved it anyway, and I loved it for this. This is a zigzag quilt. And you can see my darker zigs and my lighter zags. This one is also fun because this one was quilted on the Baby Lock Sashiko machine. So we'll switch camera views real quick so you can see that this is not hand quilting. It's done on the Baby Lock Sashiko with really big dark stitches here on my dark and then small light stitches here on my light to add to that contrast of dark and light on this quilt. 9 patches, again, is a great one for dark and light, but you don't exactly need 50-50 dark and light on this one, so you have a little more leeway for playing with this one. This one is the checkered 9 patch. And look how fun that is. It's in these really whimsical, fun, colorful fabrics, but this would look great in just about any collection if you can pick out a little bit of contrast. And most fabric designers, when they put together a collection, they really think about how that collection is going to come together to make the entire quilt. And so they look at contrast and color. This quilt is made using 42 squares, but I actually picked and chose from a couple different collections to get this. However, you can find collections that'll give you this kind of look. This is just a really big heart. You can find a collection that you love that has like a lot of big red in it, and then just add a few neutrals, grab a couple fat quarters of neutrals or a couple half-yard cuts of neutrals to cut your background squares from, and you can make it that way as well. So you definitely have options for when you're making this one. And who doesn't love a big heart? And a big heart quilt is perfect for just about any occasion, and this comes together so quick. For this, I laid out all my fabrics dark to light and then just found the middle and swapped them to be able to get the dark light contrast on this. So you don't necessarily need big dark light contrast, but you definitely get some good dark light going on these square in a square blocks. And they're so fun. By the way, I should mention with all of these quilts, the bindings on all of them were done with AGF 2.5 edition. So I used the Art Gallery fabrics, and this one has a quilt sleeve on it, which is what you're seeing there. But I used AGF 2.5 edition binding fabric on every single one of these quilts. So I guess I challenged myself 2 things. 1, every quilt uses 1 set of 42-inch squares, and every quilt is bound with AGF 2.5 edition. This one is made from quarter square triangles with darks and lights, and then put together in kind of contrasting rows of darks and lights, so you get like a kind of checkered effect within your quarter square triangles, which is super fun. And again, comes together so quick. Quarter square triangles are probably, I'd probably say the toughest of everything in this quilt, or everything in this book. Quarter square triangles. There's a lot of very simple, straightforward strip piecing that you don't need fancy quarter square or even half square triangles. This one is another fun like pictorial quilt similar to the heart quilt. This one is our big star, and I did it with really light fabrics here. And this is one collection. This is 1 set of 42-inch squares, and it just worked perfect for getting the right colors for this really fun big star. And I love how this one turned out. Love it. I have another set of 10-inch squares of this fabric from Art Gallery Fabrics, and I want to make another one because I want to quilt that one with the Baby Lock Sashiko as well, because it looks It's so cute. This one, similar to quarter square triangles, I call them half quarter square triangles because it's half a half square triangle and half a quarter square triangle. And again, there are so many different ways that you can lay out your half quarter square triangles to get really fun looks. I went with this one for this quilt, but there are so many designs and I show them all in the book. So once you make your blocks, you get to play with what you want your final layout to be, and you'd be so surprised at how different the different options look. You could really make like a year's worth of quilts just with this book and stacks of 10-inch squares. And most of us have stacks of 10-inch squares in our studios to play with. So you just grab fabric that you already have, the book, the ruler, and you get to town. Now this is the rail fence. Now this quilt, I didn't love how this one turned out. May not end up in the final book, we'll see. But I think I'm going to push to have it in the final book because while to me this is an ugly quilt, first of all, the fabrics are stunning and I've done other quilts with these fabrics and love those quilts. I have 2 other quilts done with this fabric line that I love, and so I just didn't do justice in picking where these fabrics go. I'll show you in a second. There's just it's very heavy for the eye and there's not a lot of place for the eye to rest with this one, and so I redid this, a different version of this same design and with very neutral fabrics, and you'll see the difference. So this one has 16 patches with rail fences and plain squares, and it ends up being like a very busy, bold quilt. And I want to remake this in a fabric line that is more suited to this pattern. Definitely this pattern needs a very specific set of 42-inch squares, and I, as the designer, missed the mark on that one. So I used one of the other patterns from that grouping, which uses just the rail fence blocks. No 9 patches, no straight pieces, and this was the result. So you can see this one a lot more soothing, a lot more neutral, but it's the fabric that I chose to bring into the quilt that really makes a difference. However, I think that this rail fence really could go with any fabric line. And at the end of the day, it's just one stack of 10-inch squares that you're using to make any of these quilts. So it's not like a huge risk. You can absolutely play with a whole line from your favorite designer, your favorite company, or just a line that really speaks to you and make a quilt. And if you wanted, you could grab several packs of that same line and make several different quilts from the book, and they would be completely different quilts, but they would all go together because they all have the exact same fabrics. It's so much fun. These quilts are available for shops to borrow and to be able to show in person. So if you'd like to have your shop borrow the quilts and show them in person, make sure you let your shop know to reach out to me and we can get that arranged. Oh, I forgot one of the quilts. This one was also made by one of my team members with a line of Moda fabrics. And this is another big half square triangle, but this one is set on the diagonal. So yet another completely different quilt made using 10-inch squares. There are over 42 different patterns in this book that use 42 10-inch squares. Now, if you've watched the video this far, I have a couple treats for you. The first is a tiny little peek at a launch that is happening tomorrow because it is in conjunction with the 10-inch square quilt block book, and that is that I designed a ruler specifically for using with 10-inch squares, and it is the cake cutter ruler. So I'm going to be showing you all about the cake cutter ruler in tomorrow's video. You'll be able to get the cake cutter ruler as well as the 10-inch square quilt block book from your local quilt shop, and I want you to be able to have an autographed copy. Now, I can't go around to every quilt shop and hand autograph the copies, so what I have is 4 quilt shops that reach out to me. I have labels, and now I individually sign every one of these labels Shops just need to let me know how many they need, and I send them out labels as well as this bookmark. And this bookmark can just go right in the book, and the label can get stuck right in the book as well. And now this is an autographed copy of the book, and it'll show that way on the shelf because it has this little autographed copy on the top. I designed these bookmarks specifically for quilt shops so that they could identify the autographed copies on their shelves. It talks about the 2 other books that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and on the back it has a list of all the different notions that I've invented so that shop owners can talk to their customers about my different notions as well. What is not on here is any information about my website or directing people to me in any way at all, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm absolutely not trying to take customers away from quilt shops. In fact, I want you to go to your local quilt shop and buy from them. And this is just a little marketing tool to help quilt shops not only sell more books because they'll be able to have autographed copies, but also be able to make that connection with the books and the tools that they carry in the shop. Friends, grab yourself some 10-inch squares and the 10-inch square quilt block book from your local quilt shop. Make sure that you've subscribed to this channel, liked this video, and left any of your comments below. Come back tomorrow to find out all about the cake cutter ruler. And friends, I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.